After Friday's blowout jobs report, the market has no idea what it wants to do. Are the Fed going to cut rates at all? What is that going to mean for inflation? We're going to be discussing that, everything happening in crypto and the stock market, and much more today on Money Never Sleeps. Thanks for joining us today, folks. As we get going, do us a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Remember, nothing Kevin or I say is financial advice, so please do your own research before making any trades. Kev, we were not here Friday. I know you had to work that day. Jobs report came in and just absolutely blew it out of the water. Almost double what the expectation was. Strongest jobs report in 6 months. Unemployment rate allegedly has gone down. The markets have no idea how to respond at this point. We've seen bonds all over the place. We've seen a movement over the last week. The prediction for the next Fed meeting showed, 1 week ago today, 65% chance of 25 basis point cut, 34.7% chance of a 50 basis point cut. As of this morning, that had moved to 84.5% chance of 25 and now 15.5% chance of no movement in the rate at all. The Fed doesn't know what's going on. The markets don't know what's going on. We don't know if it's a soft landing, a hard landing, no landing at all. Meanwhile, we have continued tension in the Middle East. We have another massive storm that's about to hit Florida. Just a really weird time in the markets, politically, globally. It's crazy. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I just want to bring up Chris for this beautiful comment. No way that jobs report becomes the strongest data revision next month. I definitely think it will be a pretty big revision when we do, maybe even 2 revisions, right? We've had such revisionist history when it comes to economics in the past 12 months. Everything just comes back way, way different than what it's initially reported. So I take it with a grain of salt. The markets want to be stupid and pile in at the top and literally like stacking shit to the ceiling. Be my guest. This seems like a time right now where you and I talked about it before the show. Risk off, doing less, not necessarily a bad idea. I don't trust this market. I don't trust the data. I don't trust anything. And we're going to talk a little bit about the VIX and some possible scenarios for when we could see a bit of a pop. And it kind of all relates to the fact that we're only about 30 days or so away from a major election that I think the markets are just, hinging all their hopes and bets on. So I'm doing pretty good today. I'm glad to see some red in the market. I think that it's all bull, to be honest with you. I think everyone's still positioned very bullish. I think Bank of America even came out and said that, which we'll get to them a little bit later. But, I don't believe anything right now until we get closer to that date in November.
Yeah, like when I look at the market as a whole, so many stocks are within, 5 to 10% of their all-time highs. And that is with everything going on in the Middle East and what could be some, we have another inflation print on Thursday. So CPI Thursday is going to be a pretty big one. If that comes in hot, I mean, look out. Like that's going to be, the market's going to get crushed if it comes in over expectation. And based on what we saw in that jobs report with the number of jobs added, with the increase in wage growth, it would things don't seem a whole lot cheaper to me. So if that comes in strong and we have, increase in gas now, oil is back over 80 a barrel. We could see that get even worse if the Iranian oil plants are attacked. Like they could look for $100 barrel there. And then what the hell does the Fed do? What does the government do around, in the US? Like these markets, man, are not acting rationally. And it's the boring approach, but I'm still just sitting over here on my hands. I got my DCAs going, and that's about it. But nothing major. And people want to be active right now, right? I think people are getting. This is what the market wants. The market wants people to get impatient and act recklessly and do something for the sake of doing it. Whether it's buying into meme coins or buying the top of your favorite tech stock, the market is banking on people being irrational and impatient, and it just solidifies my desire to continue to just wait and not get overly invested and not try to be too active right now.
Yeah, and we've seen the central banks are still pumping liquidity into the markets, right? And that's the thing that's really fucking crazy right now about this time is that no one wants this thing to drop because there's so much money to make sure it didn't drop, right? When you pile up everything so much at the top, the only way that you can hold it up is if you print more money and cause inflation to increase. And we're going to probably see that happen in China at some point. I don't necessarily know if the rally is going to last. We've seen liquidity come into a system, but like I said, they're happy when there's too much spending when we get inflation, but they're not happy when there is no spending when you get deflation. So if their stimulus isn't able to help them, it's going to absolutely tank. And if think about this, they're one of the largest economies in the world. That's going to make a huge impact on the U.S. at some point. Again, we just don't necessarily know when it happens or if they're going to announce it. But the thing that's really wild to me is I think inflation is still a problem. And yet they cut 50 basis points and now they're looking at maybe not even cutting. However, all the jobs data is coming in hot as shit. You had the strikes that were going on for even a few days. It's still going to, make some type of impact. Now you're also probably going to see with all the hurricanes and everything like that, like you're going to see the cost of goods go up an insane amount. Um, does this come before the election? Probably not. Probably November. We're going to, probably see the uptick. Probably mid to late November. But I think this is just such I mean, it's a fuck time to really pick sides here. I don't necessarily know if you can be bullish, and everyone seems extreme. America's one of their top traders released a statement that everyone's long on equity still. And you can kind of see it in the market, right? You're only down within the range of 5% or so on the tech stocks, especially. And we've seen in the past few weeks that literally the Nvidia accounted for, north of 40% of the S&P's move in a given day when the rest of the tech stocks weren't performing. Like, you can't tell me that's not bubble territory. And the only way that the bubbles pop is, something breaks and you start to see liquidity become an issue. It was just so weird too for the past week. We're seeing the DXY rise with equities. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Now we're seeing the yields kind of go, people are selling off the bonds. We saw the yield curve invert once again early in this morning. Let's see what it does today. But this is a shit show. I'm sorry to say that this is absolutely just fucking like, I'm just rambling because I'm trying to even make sense speaking it into existence. Like, what the fuck is the plan here? It's nothing's working at any central bank level, whether it's Asia, the US, or even Germany. Germany manufacturing index down like negative 5.8% today. Expected was -2. So I guess, I don't know. I don't know at this point.
And then let's add in everything in Asia too. Like the market, China looks like the market's finally recovering over there, but how much of that, once again, is the government pumping in liquidity, and is this sustainable? So I just think that everyone's just throwing shit against the wall to try to see what sticks. And at the end of it, whoever has the least amount of shit on their face is going to be coming out in front. Like, this is just an absolute, it's a clown show. Like, I don't know, like anyone who's like super like confident about, the next, sustained growth over the next 6 months. Like, I would love to hear why, because maybe they can educate me on something, because I just don't see it.
I don't see. I literally think it's going to be the most bleak year next year. And again, we have 30 days to this major event in the market. I can't think of a bigger event that the market is hinging all of its bets on, right? It thinks that if it goes one way, it's going to be bullish. If it goes another way, it's going to be bearish. That markets are kind of saying that it doesn't matter what happens. It's kind of all the same. We're just kind of hoping we can hold it together till that date. So, we can talk about some of the VIX scenarios real quick just to see what's going on there. The VIX is absolutely having an amazing day today. It's up almost 19% today. So, not bad. I'm long on the VIX, so I'm okay with these types of pumps. I'd be happier if it was 119% up.
Well, let's not get greedy here, okay?
Get greedy, man. You're telling me that's the biggest bear in the world against a market that's been greedy for 4 years straight. But yeah, I talked about these triangles. these patterns, these wedge patterns, it gets in them and it breaks out of them. I mean, we're getting a bit of a breakout. I don't care that the stochastic RSI is overbought. I do think that it's going to be relatively in this range here. Maybe it can go up more. Maybe it goes down a little bit, but I think that the VIX is going to be in a really weird range until we get to the election, right? And so let's say that the market breaks before the election. Obviously, the VIX would just increase from here, and this is the breakout. And this was the pattern that we got crushed into. And that's the breakout, and then obviously we go to, I don't know, 80 to 100 in the VIX. I think whenever this market does break, the VIX is going to go to an all-time high. That's just my opinion. But looking after the election, what we could be seeing is maybe we get crushed from here until December, and I think that once the votes get certified, there's a good chance that we could see maybe some of this volatility come back into the market, because then everything is solidified that, okay, this is going to be our next president. And maybe, the kind of Trump rally that everyone's hoping for kind of ends around that time. And then you start to see the market kind of kick into place right at the end of the year. And then obviously Q1 is not necessarily the most bullish of circumstances, right? You could also just, people get afraid around November 5th, not necessarily sure what's going to happen. And everyone just kind of starts selling, panic trading. It happens. I wouldn't be surprised. And then we just start to see the VIX kind of take off. Maybe we get a pullback here, and this is no different than, some of the other breaks that we've seen to the upside, right? We break out of this, we can pull back for a few days, and then you get the major move. This is February 2020, so obviously different circumstances. However, we could see the VIX break out of these channels, and then it retest it, and then after it retests and finds support, if the catalyst is big enough, you will get that pop in the VIX. So we're kind of looking for that pattern. We're just kind of trying to see if we're going to put in any other pattern, any other wedge till we get to that point, or if this is the last wedge pattern we expect. And then, we're looking at, I'll say, days to weeks of just choppy volatility before we get some type of catalyst that pushes us a lot higher. Iran and Israel could also add to that mix. That's where we're seeing some of this volatility. Oil increasing in price. Again, that's going to cause a lot of volatility as well. But I'm pretty sure that everything right now with the VIX is kind of in line with what we're seeing coming in November. So before, after, on, it really depends. We're waiting for that catalyst that brings us to that tipping point. But I think this is absolute prime conditions to see the VIX break out, as we've seen it break out in times before. Like obviously this wedge pattern we put in from 2020 to July of 2024, and then August we shoot up to 65 on the VIX. There's no guarantee that was the height of this pattern. I mean, we could still be outside of this pattern. This is the retest back down here. And, maybe we put in something higher than what we got back here in 2020. Maybe we were looking closer to something like 100 to 115, 120 in the VIX. I don't know. Uncharted territory, guys.
All right, Kev. Where else do we want to go for the time being? I'm seeing a little bit of a buyback in the crypto market right now. Bitcoin back over 63K.
Let's do
sentiment out there, but let's look at Nvidia real quick. Nvidia being up, almost 3% today, while everything else is eating shit. This is not really making much sense. I'm trying to find what is causing this move up today, and it's just a lot of positive speak. There's no actual nothing to back up the positive momentum that Nvidia has right now, and I'm just trying to figure out what is going on.
Ain't that about a bitch? It fucking seems like it's anytime Jensen opens his mouth that people are just like, oh, this guy knows what he's doing. I'm going to keep buying more of this thing. Said the 4 companies who've been buying the fucking actual products that he sells. One of which is Super Microcomputer, a very lucky company that is also announcing that they're going to be shipping out more product. And I just go over to Super Microcomputer. I haven't seen it since this morning. Someone said that they shot up a ton today. Yeah, up 14% today. Post stock split once again too. So you talk a big game. This market will buy it up. We also know how intertwined this stupid sector is with the Nasdaq and the S&P. I think you're playing a dangerous game here. This wick right here is not necessarily a bullish wick. That's kind of a fake out. I mean, you didn't even put in a higher high compared to where we were in August 2024. You got rejected pretty hard, so that could be even technically a double top-ish scenario. But the key thing is, we're looking at Monday, October 14th. That's the end of this not parallel channel, this triangle pattern here, this, pennant. And you get to that date, and you don't break north of 132, you don't put in new highs, then that's the second failed bullish breakout that we've gotten, and that's kind of a no-no. I wouldn't assume that the stochastic RSI would be extremely overbought at that time, and let's put it this way: when you start getting a lot of exhaustion at a given range and no one's buying it up, and you are holding that position for a period of time, you start to worry that people might start to sell off some of their positions, right? Especially if you start to see a lot more information coming out. Maybe Jensen starts selling up at this range because he said he wasn't going to sell in the, what was it, like 112 range or something like that, even though he starts selling from a little bit higher, and then people see that the stock's not going up from there. What do you think people are going to do? They might panic sell. But this is just a dangerous game to be thinking that, oh, this is for sure a bullish breakout. We don't know that yet. Give it till we get to the end of this, the apex, and then that'll kind of decide where we go from there. It's just funny to see it up so much when you look at Apple down almost 2% today, right? Tesla down 3%, Microsoft down 1.4%, Amazon down, 3%. So a lot of red tech stocks out there today, but Nvidia for some reason, SMCI for some reason, still doing good because they're hoping that this product that no one really buys is gonna lead to amazing earnings results. Yeah, got nothing else on that.
What could possibly go wrong there? Okay. Any other, anything else in equities you want to look at? Look at oil? Do you want to look at gold, crypto?
Do two things real quick, and then we'll finish with crypto because not necessarily too much going on in crypto outside of Bitcoin from what I'm seeing. Kind of talking about a range from last episode, but I do want to show us what's going on in Japan. Japan, 148 to 1 US dollar. The yen losing strength against the US dollar. Obviously, the DXY going up. Why is this dangerous? Because it's the carry trade all over again. Everyone thinks, oh, yeah, now the yen's going to go to 160. Everything's going to be okay. We're going to have a lot more liquidity. We could start piling into some of these trades, borrowing the yen and then putting it into, other equity markets, maybe even China. What happens when those markets dump? It's the same thing that happened in August. I'm just seeing like this. It's like, we were all the way up here at one point back in July. We were at 162. And you could see from July to August, I mean, the day it crashed all the way down to 141, like 15 days or so. I mean, you don't think that can't happen again? It's just so funny to me to see this, and I expect the dollar to be strong here. I do think the dollar's going to go a lot higher, but I do think that there is going to be some point where the dollar does go below 100, and that could cause a lot of the carry trade to unwind once again. But it's just the same scenario, and people are falling for it, and I think that's what the equity markets here in the U.S. are doing as well. They keep seeing the stock go up, so it's like, oh, well, I might as well buy in before it gets away from me. Carry trade. Well, I might as well take advantage of this because it's going back to 160. It's a very dangerous game. And the other thing too is, oil going up isn't necessarily the most bullish for a lot of these banks in China. Let me see here, I can pull it up. U.S. oil, I'm just pulling this up here. It's at 77. If something were to happen in the Middle East, obviously you hit oil fields or anything like that, I wouldn't be surprised to get closer to that 100. I mean, even as much as 110. 115 range in oil. It might be a quick, sharp, just shoot up there, but then we have to think about demand. We're seeing a lot of manufacturing, indexes come back and say that things aren't looking super great. China is necessarily in a deflationary period. If no one's spending money, the crude oil isn't necessarily going to be as in demand as it would be if we're in a bullish scenario. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get a quick spike. That's a short squeeze, and then next thing you know, falls off a cliff, very similar to what we got in summer of 2008 into the fall of 2008. That was a big JP Morgan trade that they made a lot of money on, and I wouldn't be surprised if that happens again. So if this pumps up a lot higher off of something that happens in the markets, in the news, wouldn't surprise me. But a lot of the banks in Japan are actually short oil, so I think that would kind of fuck over a lot of those positions, especially in the carry trade. Can you imagine if you were borrowing yen to throw into the into a short squeeze into a short on oil, and the next thing you know, the market completely reverses on you, and the dollar's getting weaker, and the yen is getting stronger. That's double whammy margin call right around the corner. But yeah, that's pretty much it on the TradFi front. We did talk about that bank with $2.6 billion, borrowing from the Fed. Next thing you know, Bank of America is showing balances at zero. I was one of those accounts. I didn't panic because I knew that everything was going to be okay. I'm not saying I'm okay with Bank of America. I have my own problems with some of these institutions, but they were one on the radar. We know that Warren Buffett's been offloading them. There's a lot of other banks that I think are right around the corner, not too far behind them. So we'll see how this plays out. But let's talk about crypto and we can wrap it up for today.
Yeah. Meme coins are making a little bit of a comeback on the crypto side of things. I'm not partaking in that, but good luck to those who are. We've seen Bitcoin dominance. It's on the climb back up. It touched 58.2, got up to almost 50. Let's see here, 58.3 a couple days ago. It looks like it wants to break to the upside again. I mean, we're seeing stablecoin dominance retreated a little bit, but it started to return. So I don't know, man. Nothing makes sense right now, and I'm gonna take the easy way out and just keep dollar cost averaging.
I have a lot of friends that are obviously younger than me, and they're asking about crypto and stuff like that, and they're looking at like XRP, and I just pointed a few things out to them, and I always point this out to everyone on the show. And I was pointing it out to them when XRP was here about 66 cents, which is not too long ago. Obviously, people were getting excited by that move. It's at 53 cents today. I didn't advise them at all, but I just told them like use these charts. You can kind of see the difference between Bitcoin's performance and altcoin performance. Memes are a different sector of that industry where it's just like, a fucking hippo was born in some zoo in Thailand, and you could end up a millionaire by lunch if you bought the coin 2 days prior, right?
Yep.
So I'm not gonna do TA. I'm not gonna even feed into that. If you make money off of that, I'm happy for you and the hippo coin. But alts are not doing shit. I'm sorry. I keep looking at this. It's continuation patterns, just sideways. I mean, this is Cardano. You guys know I used to fucking talk big game about Cardano. I don't give two shits at this point because the world's heading towards global recession. But the point is, I'm looking at this right here. You have been doing nothing since April, just flat sideways. And it's like, well, if the downward trend was the move before it, guess where it's probably going to continue to? The downside at some point. That would be my assumption. I mean, look at Link.
Yeah,
a little bit of a. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, I have that pulled up as well, and like we're just back to some sideways churn here.
I mean, look what happened here when you broke out of this bull flag. I mean, this bear flag, right? Higher highs, higher lows. Oh, everyone's excited. Boom, down. Oh, look at this. I mean, it's the same exact freaking thing that we just saw, and people might be getting bullish. It's like, what do you think this is going to do? What did it do over here? Well, it's probably going to go to the downside. That would be my assumption. That's my bad. I'm looking at AVEX. I should be pulling up Link. Well, it's the same exact story, the same patterns. Alts are trading across the board in very similar patterns. You might get one or two they're trading a little bit differently, but I talked about this on the show a few weeks ago as well. ETH's doing the same thing as the other alts too, and look where it is. It's B wave has been put in. I don't think it's going any higher. This B wave. I think that the A wave. I mean, the origin is here. The A wave's down here somewhere. There's the A wave. B wave's up here. We need to finish this. We need to go for C wave. If the B was lower than the origin, then it tells me that we're going lower than the A wave. So it tells me that alts are not in a bullish state of play. I'm seeing Crypto Capo and all these other influencers that are just like, this is the time to be buying alts. It's like, I don't know, man.
If you to back that up, if you go to like the monthly for ETH, like we haven't reached like completely oversold yet. And I think there's probably that one more major move down that finally gets it to oversold on the monthly. Like it's been heading in that direction, since March of this year was when it reached this peak of being overbought. And it's just been heading down on the monthly. And I think we need that next big move of ETH going to like 2K, maybe even below for a hot second before it finally hits that oversold territory. And then it can stay oversold for a while too. Like, it doesn't have to rebound. It's not going to be a V-shaped rebound necessarily.
Absolutely. That's actually a great point that you bring up, looking at the monthly chart, because I haven't looked at the monthly chart. I've been looking at the daily every day for the past few weeks, but I didn't even notice this. I mean, just look at that. That looks like shit, guys. I'm sorry. And the volumes are so dead right now on ETH, and this is what Bitstamp. Let's pull up ETH on Coinbase, I guess, right? I don't know what the biggest exchanges are anymore. Coinbase in Europe also offloading Tether. We make a lot of calls on this show. Things just happen a little bit after we say them. But this is ETH on the monthly on Coinbase. Just looking at the volumes here. I'm just remove some of these ABC bullshit waves. Yeah, that was. Let's put it this way: I haven't looked at the chart in so long. I had a different structure for it, but look at this. It's the same exact thing. The volumes are dead. There's no one necessarily trading or buying this. I mean, if you're seeing a lot more green volumes, sure, it would be 2020, December of 2020. Even we're in here in June of 2022, we're seeing a lot of sell volume. You're getting a ton of people just getting out of the market. I think there's a lot of people still trapped in ETH and some of these alts, but you're just seeing a little bit people getting out of this, shortly, over a period of time. And what we're waiting for is capitulation. I think that's kind of the base case for alts right now. We're waiting for capitulation that gets us that oversold territory. And don't forget, you can stay oversold or overbought on the monthly for a period of time. I mean, if we're looking at this bear scenario, March of 2022, what is that? Three Arrows Capital, all the way till February of 2023, the banking crisis. It was right around the corner, and then obviously liquidity came in with the BTFP, ran away with this bullshit. All right, BTFP is being pulled now. There's not necessarily any excitement around crypto. Anything that's not Bitcoin and ETH with the ETFs is kind of just dissipated all that hype. You're waiting for to finish this structure. That's all I'm saying. I look at Bitcoin, which is way different scenario across the board, but you're just trading sideways in this range. It's very boring. You're not able to break above this. Why is that? You have the ETFs, you have every bullish catalyst that you possibly could have for this thing, and it's just not pushing up further. It's just got more dominance over all the alts. So if Bitcoin decides to dump or puke really bad, what do you think is going to happen in a lot of these other altcoins? I think that's kind of the scenario I set up for the guys that were asking me those questions. Also, you have the biggest cheat sheet in the world right here with USDT dominance. This was the height of the market back in March. Bounced off this trend line. Obviously, it was the height in October 2021, the height in April of 2021 before you got the summer correction, before you got the Fed raising rates, and into the FTX crash. And then obviously here is hype on the ETF news. And then where are we now? Are we going to go back down here and test all-time highs in the crypto market? Or are we going to head towards, what could potentially be a low in the markets as we've seen in, January 2023 after FTX? And, October 2020 before we got the bull rally that led us into, obviously 2021, which was an insane year. So that's what we're looking at. I just don't think that there's very many scenarios for bullish continuation in crypto. My opinion.
We did. So I did just see one thing that could be fairly bullish. This was news that came in about 6 minutes ago. Judge approves FTX bankruptcy plan to fully repay crypto customers in cash with interest. So if that cash, if a good amount of that cash flows back into the crypto market, that could definitely help push prices higher.
Man, if those people get back in the crypto after FTX, they got some steel brass balls. I don't know.
I mean, let's be honest. Like people who are in crypto who had money there,
I know they're crazy.
They've waited around this long. Like they're gonna get back in. Maybe that's good for Coinbase stock. Maybe that's
it is up today
right now.
It's the only one that's green outside of Nvidia and SMCI.
Maybe they get a lot of that new cash flowing into their pockets. So we'll see. That's going to wrap it up for today's show. Appreciate those of you who joined us. Remember, if you haven't yet, like, subscribe, drop a comment. Anything like that is appreciated. We'll be back on Wednesday. Correct, Kevin? Back Wednesday?
Yes, Wednesday for sure.
We'll be back on Wednesday to talk about the latest in the markets, how things are moving. So until then, have a great day. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you Wednesday.
Take care, everyone.